While there are plenty of directors that could make a solid Elvis biopic, there's only one that could match Elvis's style and presence, and that's Baz Luhrmann. Luhrmann is known for making his movies feel big and fantastical and glamorous. Some people aren't into his style, and I totally get that. I can admire Luhrmann trying to do something new and make this movie feel different, but it's still a familiar biopic. This time, there's just a little bit more dazzle in it. Luhrmann shapes Elvis's story around the perspective of his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who's played by Tom Hanks. Parker was known for dictating Elvis's career and basically his life. Since we're getting that type of perspective, this movie tends to focus a lot more on the dynamics and the relationship between Elvis and his manager. It shows how relationships between managers and their clients can clash due to creativity or money or anything like that. Parker is the narrative's focus, with Elvis's spotlight peeking over him. Then it'll focus on Elvis. We get to see a little bit more of Parker in the back, planning more so what to do with Elvis's career, how to manipulate it, how to get more money out of it. Luhrmann is clearly focused on that relationship. Because of that, he's trying to tell you Elvis's life story along with the relationship between manager and client. And the editing is so quick and flashy, it makes those rushed moments become a little bit more tell not show highlights. They rush through his mom being an alcoholic, him meeting Priscilla, his soon-to-be wife. They rush through the relationship between them. They rush through his movie career. Instead of focusing on any of those aspects, we spend like 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes, at least it feels like that, on making a Christmas special. This entire part of his career is supposed to show the aspects of the clash between Elvis and his manager. Parker is wanting Elvis to sing some Christmas songs. Elvis doesn't want to do that. He wants to do something a little bit new. I feel like this moment in his career isn't as significant as anything else that I previously mentioned. It is supposed to show the clash between him and his manager, and it's supposed to show his political awakening, but that's really about it. Honestly, this itself could have been its own movie. You can establish the struggles between Elvis and his career, what his goals are. You can establish the struggles with Tom Parker. There's some development. It leads to a really cool climax, which actually is a cool moment in the movie. So yeah, that could have been its own interesting movie, but instead we're trying to just learn every single big thing about him, when that itself could have taught us enough to get a good insight about Elvis. The movie also tries to make points about Elvis's career, his appropriation of Black culture. He was inspired by artists such as Arthur Crudup and B.B. King. And since the movie is trying to breeze through everything, I feel like we don't get enough of them being involved for his inspiration and for his music career. Again, this would have been an interesting movie on its own. Part of his legacy is also about being criticized for adopting this culture and music as his own. To me, that sounds like an interesting idea. This idea is mentioned, but it is forgotten pretty fast as well. There is reportedly a 4-hour director's cut, and I'm sure that 4 hours focuses a lot more on everything that I mentioned. Luhrmann's style gets in the way of a lot of this as well. None of the shots feel like they last more than 5 seconds. There's constant cuts. The camera is always in motion, either zooming in or panning one way or another. I will say though, that style does help the pacing a lot. The story never takes a moment to rest. It's constantly in motion. Because of that editing and because we're rushing through so many things, it honestly feels like I'm watching a 2.5 hour long trailer. But like I said, this is Luhrmann's style. This is how he likes to shoot things. This is how he likes to edit. So it makes sense. He sprinkles in some modernism into this movie, which is something he's known for. They do obviously play Elvis songs, but Doja Cat has a song in this. Casey Musgraves has a song in this. Denzel Curry has a song during the credits. They play Britney Spears at one point in the movie too. There are either covers of Elvis songs or their own takes on Elvis songs. It doesn't really match with the tone or what the story's going for. Now, it sounds like I'm not a fan of Luhrmann's style, but that is not entirely true. It just takes a little bit of time for me to get used to. But there are some really cool moments in this movie. So that style really helps those moments, but I also have to give credit to Austin Butler, who plays Elvis. He is wholly committed to this role. He's convincing and magnetic like Elvis. I don't think he looks exactly like Elvis, at least in my opinion. There's something about the nose maybe, or maybe it's his eyes, but it helps that I don't really have a strong connection with Butler as an actor because I've never really seen him before, at least since I was a kid. So I'm not really seeing Austin Butler. I am seeing Elvis in this movie, despite I don't think he entirely looks like him. He does some of the singing in the movie, which I applaud for making actors do that. He definitely sounds like Elvis because I didn't know he was singing. I thought they were using actual Elvis recordings. They might go back and forth throughout the movie, but I 100% thought it was all Elvis Presley recordings and not Austin Butler singing. The editing and the cinematography help with Austin Butler's appearance as Elvis. There are plenty of shots that show the back of Elvis, like behind the stage. We also get wide shots from the crowd or farther away from the stage, making it harder to see his face. And when we get shots like that, that's when Butler decides to go bigger in his motions, and it really captures Elvis's actions and his movements really well. There were times where I really did think that was footage of Elvis. I still can't really tell. I'm guessing it probably wasn't. It's just really impressive to me. Tom Hanks, on the other hand, that was a choice. Tom Hanks in this movie looks like Tom Hanks with questionable prosthetic makeup. It's rare to see Tom Hanks play a villainous role, and I'm all for Tom Hanks trying to do something different and new, but man, his performance is rough. Tom Parker is from Holland, so I'm not expecting Tom Hanks just to talk like himself in this movie, but it's questionable and it's really all over the place. I looked up footage of Tom Parker. I can see what Hanks is going for, but it doesn't sound like Parker to me.
There are some who'd make me out to be the villain of this here story.
I found out some of my friends, they had artists. They put them on all the shows, talk shows for free, and they had a hard time getting a job after that.
Also, the prosthetic makeup is really distracting. It just looks like Tom Hanks' face and then like 8 pounds of prosthetic makeup around him. I do wish prosthetic makeup was maybe used a little bit more on Butler throughout the movie. There's a certain point in the movie where it really starts to rush through Elvis's career, mainly once he starts doing performances in Vegas. I think the makeup could have helped differentiate different eras in his life. Maybe just subtly like give him a little bit more as his character ages, just so you can see a difference. Luhrmann tries to make something different with this movie, but it's familiar. It's like any other biopic I've seen where it tries to cram an entire life story into one movie. There are so many rushed eras of Elvis's career. Sometimes it goes deeper in ones that aren't as interesting, and so many of these highlights could have worked as their own story. I do have to give Luhrmann credit for tackling the relationship between Colonel Tom Parker and Elvis. It just tries to cram in way too much. It does take a little bit of time to get used to Luhrmann's style for me, but there are some pretty cool moments because of his style. The movie feels big all the time, and the moments where Elvis sings, those moments really pop. And because of that, I do think it's one of the most like colorful and vibrant biopics I've seen in years. Butler is impressive to watch. You can tell he's really committed. I'm not really sure what Hanks is trying to go for in this movie. I just never would have thought in my entire life I would say I'm not crazy about a Tom Hanks performance. But here we are. Did it successfully make me a bigger fan of Elvis? No, not really. But, you know, I'm sure somebody is jamming out to Elvis after they see this movie. Not a bad movie. Probably a style over substance type of movie. If I see anything from this again, it will most likely be on YouTube, and I'll just want to watch like a couple scenes that I think are really cool. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. All right, well, thank you for so much if you made it this far. Have you seen the Elvis movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what I should review next. If you like what you see, please like, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can do whatever you want. Make sure you exercise every day, make sure you drink your milk, and have a great day.